Hey, hey, hey. How are you?
Look at that. We are live.
It just kind of snuck up on me today. I have been just so busy and doing some great stuff. And how are you, Lynn?
I'm just great. I had a great holiday weekend. Memorial Day always reminds me of just being so grateful for all that we have available to us because of those youngsters and old people, or I'll put it, senior people in the military, because without them, who knows where we would be.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I
So,
saw about this elderly gentleman, and elderly, he was probably close to 100. And they actually surprised him with a celebration. He lives in an assisted living home, and they surprised him with a celebration of his military career. And, just these are the kinds of things that are just so incredible when you think somebody's close to 100 and then they're taken back on this journey through their life. So, yeah, it was a
yeah,
great weekend. It was a great weekend, a
yeah.
great celebration. So,
And I think that we would be remiss if we didn't recognize um, opportunities like this to speak into the ethers and our business about things like that we are in alignment with, because I know you have friends who have been in the military. My
mhm.
son was a Marine, and I still consider myself a Marine mom. My grandson was in the Marine Corps Junior ROTC during high school. And, reminds me of a conversation we had the other day about the fact that when these opportunities come up for us to broadcast our congratulations or gratitude around things like this, that we have to. That's what is part of our social responsibility, as well as, our being social entrepreneurs. We want to bring that element of compassion that we feel towards other people,
Mhm.
ourselves, other
Mhm.
people, animals, the planets. I look at all the military animals, the dogs that the
Yes.
military uses. My heart goes out to them because, many of our veterans go through so many things post their military stints, and so do those animals. And a lot of them are looking for good homes. There's so many great people out there with compassion for animals that are adopting and rescuing
Right.
animals. And these are some of the same animals that need to be taken care of, and,
Absolutely.
making the world a better place for all. So that's
Well,
just,
and you think about those animals that, I was just reminded of what happened recently where there was a collapse of an apartment building, and they took the dogs in to really sniff out the people that were still in the building. And these animals do things that we can't even imagine. And, they're very loyal, they're very dedicated, and they deserve all the love and respect that we would give any military or first responder person,
yes,
male or female. And
exactly,
yeah, it's
exactly.
pretty amazing. And my nephew, actually, he was in the Army, and he was Special Forces. And I'm trying to think of the name of the group that he belonged to. But when he first went into the military, he really didn't have a lot of direction in life, and the military gave him some great direction. And now he's actually a prison guard at Folsom Prison. And I said, "Is it hard for you to do that, being around all that kind of energy?" And he goes, "Actually, no." He goes, "I feel like I bring a sense of respect to the position." And I mean, he just has grown into such an amazing man. He's a father of two young boys, and just has a beautiful wife. That he went from not having any direction in his life, really, he was kind of a wayward child, to now he's a responsible father. He takes his career very seriously. He doesn't go in with the attitude that he's better than. He really sees it as an opportunity to teach the prisoners some lessons about choices in life, and which just boggles my mind that he went in that direction, and he's turned into such a fine young man.
That is so key. It is so key for us too,
Yes,
because
absolutely.
we not only need to hear stories about those types of people, because you never know who might be listening, that really inspires them to do better, be better.
Right.
And, you mentioned that my son, I have this thing about people's names, right? And my son was a challenged child. And at 16, he reminded me of me asking what his name was all about, right? And his name was Rashad Akita, which Rashad is Arabic and Akita is Ndugu African, and together it meant great leader. And I explained that to him, and he just went berserk. I don't want to be anybody's leader. I don't want that responsibility. And, for him to have become in the military, much like your nephew, someone to find himself. He
Mm-hmm.
was in
Mm-hmm.
2 wars and lost friends. So he really experienced some things at a young age that, we as parents and aunts and uncles really wish that no child and, no young adult would have to
Right.
experience, because we know the benefits of living a good life, and a life where you feel like you're protected. And, you know, now you've got family who are part of the protection. And for him to have gotten up the ranks to sergeant and, commanding a platoon of other Marines. And when he got out, he worked for a defense contractor. He actually was invited on the design team for the building of the second generation Osprey helicopter.
Hmm.
And it turned out that the team elected him to be the spokesperson and negotiator with the brass, basically, about the design discoveries
Right.
that they
Right.
made, the flaws as well as the good things. And so for him to articulate that to senior level military was important. And to just watch these young people come up the ranks and find themselves, it's the same story, I think, that you and I experienced as we were having our entrepreneurial journey,
Mm-hmm.
finding ourselves as entrepreneurs and finding the right places that we could get in to fit in,
Right.
to either lead or be a part of the team. And, it's one of the reasons that we do these VIVE lives, right? Because we want our audiences to know that you can be a part
Mm-hmm.
of something that is meaningful. A lot of what we do is supporting those who are making a bigger impact in the world through the work that they do, which gives us the opportunity to make a bigger impact in the world through what it is that we do, supporting them through the work
Absolutely.
that we do. And I know
Absolutely.
that we wanted to actually specifically talk about something today that we want our audience to benefit from, because we've both been in positions where we've experienced this. And we want entrepreneurs to know that there is a way to more successfully move your business forward if you are looking to participate in collaborative events. Those are teams,
Right.
right?
Right.
You can have a leadership role, you can play a role on the team. And there are different ways of approaching those types of things. If you want to get on a podcast show or a web TV show, or, anything, a virtual summit or a live summit, being invited to speak on stage, it's
Right.
not something that we any longer really can do by ourselves, right? Even if you're invited on someone else's stage, that's a collaborative event. That is not
Absolutely.
you doing that by yourself. And we have to identify and adopt that newer mentality. I was listening to Vishen Lakhiani the other day, and he was
Mhm.
talking about one of the Mind Valley instructors who was actually talking about the fact that we are in a new model of business, of entrepreneurship, of life that is about collaboration. It's about the fact that we just aren't supposed to do life as a solo act. And even when we have our solo act opportunities, like me speaking right now, um, we know that this is an opportunity for us to bounce ideas off of each other, to be in a conversation about all of this. And, coming back to the approach that an entrepreneur wants to take to create or insert themselves into collaborative opportunities. What's one mistake that that entrepreneurs make?
Okay. Well, there's more than one, and the first one that comes to mind is they don't take the action. They look at other people and they go, "Oh, they're so lucky." And what they're not looking at is what it took for that person to create the opportunity. So I would say the number one mistake is not putting themselves out there for fear of being judged, for fear of failure, for fear of success, whatever it may be. And so that would be the first mistake. And you mentioned collaborative opportunities. um, it really, for me, is evident that there are so many collaborative opportunities. Like you said, being on a podcast show. If you're a guest on a podcast show, you're collaborating with the host of the show to bring more value to the audience. Another, something that we're working on right now is an anthology book where you actually get to partner with other authors to bring a themed message to an audience and to a readership. Summits, that's another one. Live events where you actually go to the event. It's collaborative opportunities, affiliate opportunities. So the opportunities are endless, and yet you have to be willing to put yourself out there. And in putting yourself out there, you want to make sure you're doing it in the right way. And what I mean by the right way, before we started this conversation, I shared that I had somebody reach out to me, and they were representing somebody who wanted to be on my podcast show. I have two shows. And the first thing that I always look for is, do they identify which show? They say, "Oh, we love your podcast," but they don't say which one. So that tells me that they probably haven't done a lot of research and they're throwing a bunch of mud up on the wall, hoping something will stick. So being very clear in their approach is a good idea. And this person said, "Yes, I'm representing so-and-so, and they'd like to be on your show to talk about health and nutrition and all that." So I assumed, okay, it's the Plant-Based Eating for Health show. And I said, "Are they vegan?" That was my response back, because that's what I look for. I want vegans to come on my show, plant-based eating vegans. And they said, "Well, no, but their product is that the product they want to talk about is, and they can hold their own in a vegan conversation." And it's like, I'm not looking for people to hold their own about the vegan conversation. I'm looking for people who are truly committed. So in your collaborative opportunities, you want to make sure that you actually are approaching the person in the right way and that your message is truly aligned. And if it's not, it doesn't make anybody wrong. It just means that you have one message, somebody else has another message. And that's what we work with our clients on, is to really help them to really get their messaging down in a way that it's very clear immediately who they are, what they do, what they represent, and who they help.
I love that, because what you're talking about is really a state of identity. When you know who you are and you know what you're about and you know the work that you do that makes a difference in the world, then you know who you want to be
Mhm.
aligned with. And it's not about getting on everybody's show. It's not about getting on every stage. It's not about getting everywhere. Because, first of all, you've lost your audience when you're trying to talk to everyone. And I love how you really position that. I don't want somebody who can hold their own in the vegan conversation. I want someone who identifies themselves as a vegan, doing what they do and making a difference by doing what they do. That is so important. And it is about messaging. And I think that it's really difficult to come up with your messaging when you have not established your personal identity. And your personal identity, we sometimes think it's separate from my business identity, right? But if you're vegan, if you're plant-based vegan, and you are in business and you're doing this business to help people do whatever you do, you can see that all merges. You cannot separate them. And if you do, if you try to, again, you've lost your audience.
Right.
And it's really interesting because we've all entrepreneurs have focused on getting their messaging right, right? We've all spent the time in the box trying to figure out what the words are.
Right, right. Got to get the perfect words. And then as
And
soon as we get them, we go, oh, that doesn't fit. Let me try something else, so yeah.
and it's been interesting for me because the messaging that I was able to identify for myself 3-4 years ago is the same messaging that I'm in now.
Mhm.
Even with us evolving into Vegan Visibility Productions,
Right.
I still support and help healthpreneurs to gain more visibility, especially those in the conversation of using lifestyle and food as medicine.
Right.
That is who I identify with. That is who I am. That's the work that I do. That's the work that we do. And it's easy when I've identified, and I want to say this too, it's not about being in a box
Exactly, exactly. And,
because
well, let me ask you this, Lynn. If somebody is looking to create that branding and create that identity, and they kind of have a feeling of what they represent, what they stand for, what are some steps that people could take in order to move closer to really getting that aha moment? Like with vegan visibility, when I first came up with that for my own business, I was out on a run one day and I was asking myself a better question. It wasn't like, what's the name supposed to be? It was just like, well, who do I really serve? Who do I resonate with? And who am I? Who am I in the world? What's the legacy I want to leave behind? And all of those questions allowed me to really think through, what is it that I want to be known for? And it's so interesting in that identification, it isn't so much about ego like it used to be when I was younger. When I was younger, it was like, well, look who I am. And today it's like, who can I serve?
and
So for
who
me,
do I
that's
want
really
to be as I am serving who I want to serve?
absolutely. So what would you say would be some steps people could take in order to start identifying what their legacy is, what their brand? Because we work with a lot of people who are, we will say, they're mature in their age, not necessarily in their personality, but in their age. But quite seriously, they're people who do want to leave a legacy. They're at that age where they say, okay, I've accomplished a lot, and now I want to make sure that I leave something behind. So what are some of the steps people can take?
Well, I want to start off by saying there are 3 things that I want to identify in this progression. And the first is that it's an evolution. I don't think that you get there the first time around.
Mhm.
And like you said, like you mentioned, you want to test it. I think this works. This feels really good for right now. Let me test it. If you test it and it works and it continues to feel like it's aligned with you, then you keep testing it. You continue to test it until you decide, okay, this is it. This works.
Mhm.
Sometimes it takes longer than other times. Like for me, identifying healthpreneurs and those in the conversation of using lifestyle and food as medicine came early on in that conversation. The feedback that I got was, I get it. I understand it. I can get with that. And then comes the rest. Well, what do you do for them? And I think that, like you mentioned, the second piece is identifying your target audience. Who do
Right.
you want to work with? What do they do? Where do they hang out? And that was something that I had to evolve in as well, because I identified a couple of places that I thought my people were hanging out and they weren't. And I had to test
Right.
where they were. So identifying me in the conversation, the message that I wanted, and going into these places to test the message out. Didn't have a problem with people understanding it, but they weren't those people. So I could not help them, and they didn't see themselves as me being someone who could.
Well, let me give you an example. That would be like, your target market happens to be the vegan market, and you go to a chili cook-off where they have the best beef chili cook-off, and you're looking for vegans. You're probably not going to find them there unless they're holding signs saying, look what you're doing to the animals. And, it occurred to me, I want to put this in, that I was thinking about advertising and how big pharma spends billions of dollars on advertising, and fast food restaurants spend untold amounts of money. And I was thinking, why are they so effective? And one, it's repetition. Repetition, repetition, repetition. You'll see a commercial over and over and over again. Another is they set the mood. There's a medicine for type 2 diabetes right now where everybody's at a party and everybody's dancing and having a good time. Oh, I've got this thing that's going to fix me. One little pill is going to fix me. And I was thinking, they are approaching from how good you're going to feel, how good they're making you feel with their thing. And so in a lot of what you do in business, you have to know what really motivates people to take action, because oftentimes we may try to go from the angle of making people wrong or shaming them, when in reality, people really want to feel good about the decisions they make. And, that's kind of a side note
Point
to
number 3. So thank you for that. Awesome.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, I just was thinking, because I heard something on the news last night that over 25% of the adult population in the United States now has non-alcoholic liver problems, fatty liver problems, which leads into diabetes. It leads into a number of challenges. And I looked it up. What's the number one cause for this? Obesity, what we eat, eating a lot of processed meats, and so it's lifestyle choices. So in line with what you have been so committed to for so many years, is really teaching people about the connection between what they consume and the health that they have. So, that's kind of a sideline to what we're talking about, but I think it's really important for people to analyze, why are certain industries doing so well, even though those industries literally are killing people? So what is it about their model that you can look at and say, maybe I could make that work within what I'm doing? And it's not about being unethical. It's truly about being aligned and ethical with what you're doing, but making people feel good about the choices that they're making.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And to our point about approach, when you know these 3 steps that we just talked about, your own identity, identifying who your target market is and going where they are, and then really making sure that you offer something they can take action on.
Right.
And what we want to offer you to take action on is joining us each week here in our VIVE Lives. It's visibility and impact for vegan entrepreneurs. And we know that our message is in the vegan conversation. Yet we also know that our message is applicable to all entrepreneurs. And we'd love for you to come and hang out with us. We want you to know some of the things that we're going to be doing and we'll be talking about as time goes on. We'll actually even be offering you an opportunity to join us, to really come in closer to play with us. And one of the things that I think many of you know already is how involved we are in one of our clients' project, and that's the National Health Association. And right now they are preparing for their 75th anniversary. And the conference that's coming up just a few weeks from now is going to be amazing. It's going to be live in Cleveland, Ohio, but you get an opportunity to join us virtually. And the virtual audience is actually going to be an experience. It's going to be an experience with exhibitors and our sponsors and the presenters and just so much more. And we want to invite you there. You can go to healthscience.org, click the conference button, click the virtual conference. Tickets are only $97. It's a 4-day event. And for $97 for 4 days, the kind of content that you're going to be getting, some of the names, T. Colin Campbell, Joel Furman, Dr. Joel Furman,
Dr. Frank Sabatino,
Frank
Brittany
Sabatino,
Girardi. You know, I have to tell you, I really got to
Bauer.
jump in here. I got to jump in here because I'm looking at who the presenters are for this conference. And I remember when I first started exploring plant-based eating, and at the time I wouldn't call myself vegan because I didn't want to be identified as a vegan. Now I proudly call myself vegan. You know, it's like, it's this evolution. But when I first started really digging into it, the people that I turned to were Dr. Joel Furman, Dr. T. Colin Campbell, you know, the who's who within the plant-based movement. And all of these people are speaking at the conference, which I think is phenomenal. Now, what's really exciting is we've added an element this year, which is the swag bag. And for those people who are interested in getting bonus gifts, you'll get some bonus gifts to do with plant-based eating. You'll get some to do with business. Our good buddy, Matali, who is the vegan publisher, she's included a bonus that is worth more than the price of admission. It's unbelievable. Consulting with her, a program that really helps you identify what you're going to write a book about. And she works with vegan authors. So I would encourage people to go to healthscience.org. That's healthscience.org. Click on the conference button and sign up for the conference. You have nothing to lose and everything to gain. It's a phenomenal event.
All of the recordings.
For a year.
That's what's so phenomenal too. And I want to just kind of backstep for a moment and talk about the speakers. You know, I remember talking to somebody a couple of weeks ago and naming some of the speakers, and they were like, "Oh, I've heard so and so before. I love them, and you know, but I've heard them before." And I want everybody to know that every year, these presenters and every opportunity, these presenters come with new material. And how do you say new material? Well, yeah, the nutritarian diet. How much can you say about it that's going to be new? But when you put it in the context of a healthy world, of, you know, the health of people, animals, and the planet, there's a different conversation going on there. And I want people to know that whether you've heard these presenters or not, you still want to be in the room.
Absolutely.
You still want to have a front row seat, because one of the beautiful things about these speakers are they love the National Health Association, what it's all about. This is the only plant-based organization that has survived 75 years and, you know, planning on the next 75 years. And one of the things that Kathleen and I found out was they're like the best kept secret in the world. And our job is to help them to get more recognition, more name recognition. And, you know, yes, we're talking about the National Health Association, and you see healthscience.org. Well, guess what? It's part of their evolutionary process too. They started out as the Health Science Association, the American Health Science Association, and morphed into the National Health Association because their message needed to change in order to reach and impact the new audience that they were trying to attract. And it's working. And I think going forward, we're going to share both web addresses.
Okay.
Because if we're talking about the National Health Association, we want you to have that embedded in your brain. Health Science is who they are, where they started from. It's their magazine, it's their podcast, it's their newsletter. yet it all falls under the umbrella of the National Health Association. So we want you to be familiar with both. And we are also going to, you can go to this web address and click the conference button, sign up, and we'll see you there.
Yes, we will, for sure. We are going to be there both virtually and in person. And with that, Lynn, always a delight. And thank you to everybody who's been listening in. And for those who will watch the replay, we do encourage you, check out the National Health Association. Check out the conference that happens June 22nd through 26th, or 25th rather. And it's a 4-day event. It's going to be off the charts. And this is not your typical Zoom conference. This is really an experience. We have exhibitors, we have the swag bag, we have just phenomenal stuff. So the speakers alone are definitely worth the price of admission. And right now, for a few more days, you can get the whole thing for only $97 virtually. You're not going to find anything better for that price. So with that, Lynn, thank you so much. Always a delight. And
same here, Kathleen.
We'll be back next week. Same time, same channel.
All right, everybody. Bye for now.